there's a much lower threshold now to receive clinical mental health treatment or to receive medication. So many more people are receiving it, even for less severe mental health disorders. And therefore, a much larger population is now ineligible to serve, even if they wanted to. Easy one, ADHD. If you're diagnosed with ADHD once you're already on active duty, no problem. Here's your medications, keep serving. We have no issues. If you're diagnosed with ADHD and medicated for it before you enlist, very hard to join the military.
Team, welcome back to another week of the Mops and Mo's podcast with Drew and Alex. I don't know where we're at in the time warp, but I probably still sound a little bit congested, a little bit sick, feeling less congested. Still don't feel
Which will be
sick
weird for people because this is going to be like a full episode where
of
you
me.
sound that way, but we will
Yes.
have gone from like an intro where you sounded that way to a couple episodes where you didn't sound that way to a full episode where you did. You don't sound as bad today, though.
Thank you. Might be the raw milk.
We'll see. It's
We're going to talk about it.
last episode, there were points where you sounded fine and points where you sounded really bad.
Really?
Oh yeah, there were a couple of times where you like needed to clear your throat or something and you sounded like an actual frog.
That's fair. Well, guys, look here. Today, we don't have another guest. It's Drew and Alex. We also don't have a topic. Well, that's not entirely true. We have a myriad. We have myriad topics.
So here's what's up, guys. We're going into the holidays, and we've noticed over the last couple of weeks that it's starting to get harder to schedule things around stuff we have going on, times we're going to be out and about, yada yada yada. Mostly Drew. Drew's the problem.
Standard.
Drew promised me he'd be free on Wednesdays, and then like 2 Wednesdays in a row, couldn't do it.
It's true.
So blame Drew. But anyway, I'm going to start getting busy too. So we needed to like bank a couple extra episodes. This is just behind the curtain how we get it done. We've gone 2 full years now without missing a week. That's crazy.
We will not let you down.
So this is not as planned as some of our other episodes. We're just going to bat around a few topics that have been popular that people have mentioned or we have mentioned or we've been talking about with each other.
It's jazz music.
Yeah. The episode's going to be titled The Mop Up. If you have not been receiving the newsletter called The Mop Up, fix that. Go to our website, scroll down, pop your email in, boom.
Monthly. We're doing that monthly.
Yep.
Monthly
that's coming up
newsletter.
again, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. You'll have, for those that subscribe, you'll get the Mop Up in your inbox. You'll have links to some podcasts we've put out, some research that might be coming out in the space, some interesting stuff that we find.
You know what they should do? They
What?
should sign up for Long and Strong.
Yep.
They should do the workouts with their headphones in, listening
Yep.
to the podcast,
Yep.
and then like when they can't do that, read the newsletter. I don't know how that strings together, but
If you do that, if you are doing Long and Strong while listening to the podcast and you have someone take a picture of you doing that, we will send you a free t-shirt when we start to sell
we're going to do that
merchandise.
soon too. Maybe by the time you hear this, that'll be going.
That's true. If you send a picture of that to the Instagram,
Free t-shirts a lot though, man. That's an easy thing to
you'll
get,
get a
and they're going to start
free sticker.
stickers. Yeah.
You'll get a sticker. Okay, so we've said
There'll be
this
multiple stickers. They'll get a few.
Yeah, we've said this before. When we do episodes, we've got our video up, and then we also have a doc to the side. Tonight's doc goes kind of all over the place, but the
We
first
created it 30 seconds ago.
first thing I see up there is the word Ozempic. I'm going to turn that over to you.
Yeah, and we're not going to go deep on this one. We already did an episode on Ozempic. Maybe we can do another soon because things have evolved and things
It's a
like that.
weight
More
loss
research is
drug
coming out.
for people that don't know.
Yeah, and we finally do have some like longer term research on Ozempic, but I have not read it to be honest. We're not even going to go there. But I learned a factoid today that I thought was very interesting.
Where'd you learn?
Where did I learn this? Business Insider is where I learned this.
Oh.
The company that makes Ozempic is now worth more than Coca-Cola and McDonald's combined.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
How much is that?
Let's find a number. I didn't even
It's got to be a
pull it up.
couple $1,000s.
Ozempic company. First, I have to look up what the company is. No, oh, it's Novo Nordisk. They've already been huge. Never mind. That's not as crazy. They're a massive pharmaceutical giant.
But because of Ozempic, they are now
461.84 billion.
what's Elon Musk's net worth?
We're turning into such a podcast.
If he's worth more than
He is worth less than Novo Nordisk, but not by that much.
God, dude, what a factoid to go to sleep to at night. I would go to bed every night and be like, I'm worth almost as much as. That's insane.
He's in the same order of magnitude as Novo Nordisk.
Yeah.
hundreds of billions.
I know we had the guys come, they talk, we've talked about Ozempic, the goodness it can provide, and that's fine. I have a hard time trusting the goodwill of a company that has billions of dollars.
Are you okay with medicating high blood pressure?
I mean, yeah, I get it. I
Are
know where
you
we're
okay
going.
with
Yes.
medicating diabetes?
Yes, yes,
Are
yes,
you okay
yes,
with
yes.
medicating heart disease?
Yes.
So why not be okay with medicating upstream of that? It's not the one size fits all
No, that's a
solution.
good
And there's a
count.
large
That's a good
population of people
point.
it does
That's a
nothing
good
for.
point.
There are non-responders to Ozempic. And this is another one from the Business Insider thing. The more recent, like real world monitoring actual people living their actual lives data, Ozempic has been dramatically less effective than it was during the early clinical trials. Like once you get out into the universe and things are complicated, it doesn't work quite. It still works better than a lot of other things. Like it still works in the order of magnitude of like 4 or 5% body weight loss, but it's not the like 15% body weight loss of the clinical trials.
What if,
Before we go much farther, we just got to get an expert back on to talk about it, to be honest, because we're just slinging stuff we read.
but what if a pharmaceutical company that sold a product like Ozempic had to donate a percentage of their earnings to like exercise and stuff,
I would buy that. Maybe how
like a
about we
carbon
just,
tax?
it sounds like we're skipping ahead on the chart we have for our thing
Oh
here
shit, you're right. Okay.
because this is we're starting to blur into the conversation about like lifestyle medicine, and I think a hot
Good.
topic in politics lately
I
has
do
been,
love lifestyle medicine.
well, the hot topic has been like you shouldn't trust doctors because they just want to prescribe drugs, and it's all about changing lifestyle behaviors, and like a new political administration can do that. And
Mm.
and I don't think it's remotely that simple because everybody already knows that lifestyle medicine works. Even doctors know that lifestyle medicine works. Doctors just also know how hard it is to get people to change their behaviors. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to soapbox. I haven't figured out how to put this on the Instagram because it has several steps. But recently, my team at my day job, there's been a lot of instances of people getting lifestyle medicine advice from doctors, but not knowing how to implement it. So then they come to us and we help them with the implementation of it. And this goes back to Dr. Nadolsky, who came on our podcast. The Nadolsky brothers always talk about the gym clinic idea.
Linux.
I don't think that's a good name for it. That's a
It's
terrible
not.
name.
That's actually
Um,
bad. Yeah, it's a pretty bad name.
but
Clem's. That's
I
bad too.
think, and this is something I've like started writing an op-ed about that I don't know if I can turn into something good enough to publish. But we always talk about like human performance in terms of how much money it saves, and I think that is a mistake. And we talked about this with Journal Harder as well. I think we should figure out how to make it profitable because those are the things that succeed, not things that save money, things that make money.
Yep.
And I think there's a huge space here for human performance professionals working alongside medical professionals to bridge the gap between we know lifestyle medicine works, it's just really hard to do, and like just coaching, like not complicated, not super in depth medical stuff, just like helping people understand how and like being able to individualize it and have the conversations with them that a doctor doesn't have time to do. I envision a world where like every medical clinic also has a coach or two on staff that like translate the things that would work but are hard to get people to do into actual lifestyle change. But
You may need to define for the people lifestyle medicine.
dude,
I
to
have
be
it pulled
honest,
up if you just want me to read the
no, so
Wikipedia.
I'm in the process of attending the lifestyle medicine annual conference. I've
Huh?
watched like a bunch of the presentations and stuff, moving towards getting lifestyle medicine certified. And I
What?
still don't really know because a lot of these presentations, I will be honest, as much as I like lifestyle medicine conceptually, a lot of the presentations are super culty. They're like
Culty?
poorly representing, yeah, like CrossFit cult kind of stuff. And that
Ah,
they're very like vegan or vegetarian cult. They don't like critically analyze their stuff that much. A lot of the research is like
was it the American
not as
College of
good.
Lifestyle Medicine that we
Yeah.
looked into, and then we were like, it's kind of wonky.
I mean, they are clearly making a ton of money and doing great things. And I know some people that are involved in ACLM, and it's probably really positive stuff. And they're starting to make headway with the military. I just don't, the stuff they
Well,
have
here,
is not that groundbreaking.
here's the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. I actually think this is really cool. Healthy eating, exercise, restorative sleep, positive social connections, minimizing risky substances, stress management.
You say it's really cool. I say that's just like Ben Bergeron's 5 factors of health plus don't do drugs.
Yeah, but I mean, like sex
It's the same
sells,
thing. It's the
Like,
same thing.
sure. Let's bring on here. Let's make a commitment to the people. In 2025, we will bring on a lifestyle medicine expert to have a
Sure.
conversation.
I know a couple actually, and they were like military involved. They were Air Force people.
There we go. I mean, this kind of gets caged for me within Peter Attia's Medicine 3.0 concept, which I think is fascinating.
Do you know Ben Bergeron's Five Factors of Health?
I mean, I couldn't give him off the top of your head, but
I don't love Ben Bergeron. There have been some issues and things, but his Five Factors of Health are just how we eat, sleep, train, think, and connect. And it's a pretty solid model.
let's get Ben Bergeron on.
And I would edit it. We've had this conversation at work because we use the five factors at work all the time. We do a slight variation of it, which instead of eat, sleep, train, think, and connect, we modify it to eat, sleep, move, think, and connect because movement exists
Oh,
beyond just
dude,
training.
that's way better.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys.
I like that. I like that, but I like that both of those Ben stuff, lifestyle stuff. There's
Mhm.
this social connection piece to it. I think it's really cool.
It's kind of what the DoD's total force fitness model would be if they made it less complicated.
Kind of H2F if you think about it.
Really is.
Cool. So we're all heading in the right direction. That's what it sounds
Yeah.
like. Great. But yeah, lifestyle medicine. We'll track that down for 2025. Does that close out your Ozempic thing?
Yeah, we went way farther. We were already off the
It's
topic. We
fine.
switched to
We always do
totally
that.
different stuff.
Okay, so this next little piece here, folks that listened to our episode with Alyssa, the introduction, we talked a little bit back and forth about raw milk. Alex and I have a little bit of a history with raw milk. There was for a while, and I may still put this out at some point. Maybe me saying this for the podcast will actually make me put this out. But I had planned on writing a blog for the website, and the title was going to be something along the lines of douchey nutrition rules that actually work. Because admittedly, these things are douchey. I understand that for me personally, like my nutritional habits are super douchey, but the concept was sound. And while raw milk was not necessarily part of that, I started, I joined a herd share like 3 weeks ago. So for context,
Drew,
raw
why did pasteurization start? Why did Louis
pasteurization
Pasteur start heating up the
started
milk
because a lot of bovine illnesses were happening in the early 1900s, and they found
specifically?
that was it. I don't want to say hand, foot, and mouth because that's not a bovine.
Tuberculosis killed like 65,000 people due to raw milk.
Well, due to okay,
Tuberculosis
due.
transferred through raw milk.
I was gonna say, don't throw the baby out with the raw milk here.
Damn it.
But so Alex and I, can we say who we got raw milk from the first time?
Do we?
He might kill us. Anyway, we were hanging out with a mutual friend. We were hanging out with a mutual friend here near me, and he brought out some raw milk, which for folks that don't know, raw milk is just straight from the cow. I mean, you filter it. It doesn't have like dirt and stuff in it. And then you refrigerate it. It's handled very, you would hope it's handled very well, and then you drink it. That was kind of, I think that was my second time having raw milk, but you and I had some coffee with some raw milk in it. We sipped some raw milk. It was delicious.
I admit it
Um,
tastes good, but tastes good is
tastes
not a
so
good
good.
metric for
Tastes
health.
that is the only metric I have for health. Does it taste good? Anyway, as part of this douchey nutrition
People
rules,
really enjoy a lot of drugs and they aren't healthy.
so the douchey nutrition rules, and I'm going to kind of throw these right off the cuff, but effectively, there's two books that I read that were transformative for me personally from a nutrition standpoint. One was Omnivore's Dilemma, Michael Pollan,
A classic.
classic
Michael
book.
Pollan, almost all of Michael Pollan's book, really all of Michael Pollan's work is worth
He
reading.
has a couple of nutrition specific books.
I haven't read Omnivore's Dilemma to be honest. I haven't even
Oh
read
my
his nutrition
God,
stuff in
dude.
general. I've read all of his stuff on drugs.
Yeah, well, that's like his new thing,
Yeah, and his stuff is
ish,
awesome.
new-ish. Read that book. That book gets into kind of, granted, it's like, you know, I don't want to say it's muckraking journalism. It's not really, but like he gets into the industrial nutrition
Mhm.
system that we have in the United States. I believe in that book, he references another book, which is my number two book here, which is Animal Vegetable Miracle, by Barbara Knight Solver, I think.
Random Michael Pollan thing. Do you know why caffeine is so widely accepted under legal systems and marijuana is so widely prohibited
Yes,
under legal
because
systems?
caffeine makes people more effective from a labor and economic
Yeah,
standpoint.
exactly.
Marijuana does not.
Caffeine makes you
Yes.
better factory workers, and
Yeah.
weed makes you worse factory workers.
Well, and there was also something I read at one point about how hemp, the rope industry, did not want his like Mexican hemp to
Because
take
hemp is like
over.
too cheap and efficient and sustainable?
Something like that. So there's a lot of
Probably.
boogeyman stuff associated with the marijuana argument. But anyway,
We're like straying into future topics of this podcast. The history on like research on CBD and THC in the United States is so sketchy. I think the government gave like some university in Tennessee the sole rights to produce the marijuana that would be used for like a small number of authorized research projects and things like that. And they proceeded to grow the shittiest ditchweed you can possibly imagine.
ditchweed.
So that like, and it means that like all the research that's been like federally condoned is essentially not usable because like the THC levels are so low and the product is so bad and all these things. It's
We'll get
wild.
there. I said her name wrong. It's Barbara Kingsolver. But anyway,
Sorry, Barb.
Yeah, sorry, Barbara. That book, she and her family for a year basically only allow themselves to eat. I'm going to probably get this wrong, but stuff that they've either grown or purchased within 50 miles that has been produced within 50 miles. A bit extreme, but super interesting read. As a girl dad, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, what a cool thing to try to do. So that became my douchey nutrition rules.
What's uniquely girl dad about it?
For me, it was like you growing up in strength and conditioning, you always hear about the female athlete triad, which for folks that don't know, I will rattle those off really quickly. You have three conditions: disordered eating, amenorrhea. I probably pronounced that wrong. Just menstrual health, basically, loss of a girl's period, and osteoporosis, which is a weakening of your bones, but not specifically nutrition related, tangentially nutrition related, but recognizing that women have a higher likelihood of eating disorder type stuff, challenges around nutrition, etc. Simultaneously, I recognized that I was driving to a grocery store 5 minutes from me buying cucumbers from Mexico when there's a farm 200 yards away that grows cucumbers, but you can't, it's not as easily accessible.
But this goes into why people would consider your nutrition rules douchey, is because a lot of these things are going to be considered inaccessible for most of our audience.
Exactly. And that was sort of the preface of the blog post was like, I recognize that there's a certain like privilege that comes with being able to pursue quality over like quantity, as an example.
I will admit though that after like listening to you go on about this constantly, like every other week or something,
Hmm.
I have switched to local milk and eggs at least.
See? Boom. Here's the thing. Once you do your homework, it's not as inaccessible as you think. And I don't mean privileged necessarily from like a financial
The eggs are
standpoint.
more expensive, but they're also the same amount more expensive as like the quality eggs you get at the grocery store anyway.
Yes.
So it's tough.
And
But this goes back to the same inaccessible thing. Are people going to pay like 2 to 3 times as much
well, so
for
here's it.
eggs?
I have tried to find this statistic because I came across this statistic years ago and I can't remember where I found it. But what it did was it looked at like what percentage of your income Americans spend on food versus these
Sure.
nations that we like aspire to, France, etc. And it's like astronomically different. So we have gotten so used to spending, and granted, I did this for years and years. Like I had chicken thighs and rice every day for lunch for like 6 years. But when you start to think about quality versus quantity, shop local, whatever buzzword you want to throw in there, yes, it does get a little bit more expensive, but like the back end in terms of how you feel is insane. So,
No, and I had this conversation with some military folks at work just the other day as we were talking about like, is it more expensive to eat healthy? I think it's more expensive to eat out healthy. I
yes,
think it's arguably
exactly.
less expensive to eat at home healthy. And people talk about like, oh, but it takes so much time and stuff. But the same people will drive 20 minutes to a fast food place,
Hmm.
drop 12 or $15, and then drive 20 minutes back when
Hmm.
you could have spent like $4 and spent 15 minutes prepping something reasonably healthy. It's
Yes.
it's just planning ahead that's hard.
So here's the thing. Like step one, if you want to get on the nutrition douche wagon with me, step one would be to look into like a farmer's market. And those things have become prolific in the last couple of years. There's farmers markets everywhere.
Depends on where you live,
Depends on
man.
where you live, sure. But I lived in Tucson, Arizona for years. They had a farmer's market. That's like Satan's asshole in terms of how hot and dry it is. And if they can bring produce to bear, I think you can find a farmer's market. Step two, this is harder. I mean, you can garden, and people garden on the rooftops in New York. They garden in their back. Like you can garden. A fun little quest you can go down is the God, what were they called? Liberty Gardens in World War II.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What were those? Freedom Gardens?
I don't know. You can
Victory
look.
Gardens.
There it is.
Victory Gardens. So interestingly, like people were really encouraged to garden during World War II because, all this stuff to do with rationing, etc. It is hard to garden. I will grant you that, but it is a pretty cool and easy way. Well, not cool and easy, cool and fun way to grow your own produce. Step three, the harder step, and this is what I got into in the last probably 2-ish years, is like trying to find local sources of your major things. So, like you mentioned, eggs, milk, poultry, meat. So I get all of my meat from a farm down the road that does like a box of ground beef, short ribs, steaks, blah 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 in bulk, and then you just stock your fridge with, or your freezer with that. Eggs is typically pretty easy. A lot of people, if you look around, a lot of people have eggs. Milk is the hardest, and that's where the raw milk thing comes into play. So in North Carolina, I don't know how this is in other states, but in North Carolina, you either have to buy raw milk for pets, quote unquote, or you have to
The
join a
quote
herd.
unquote there, heavy emphasis. You
Heavy
say you're
emphasis
buying it
on
for pets and
it's not
everybody
for pets.
agrees. Yeah.
Yes. You can also join a herd share, which again, I say all this because if you Google any of this stuff in your local area, you might be able to find something.
Which, let me add, the for pets thing is the same way people get away with SARMs.
Mhm. And if
It's
you
like you
combine
you sign a thing that
SARMs,
says I'm going to use this for animal research, and then
if you
you.
combine SARMs with raw milk, you turn into a dog. So it all comes back to pets, if you think about it.
As the co-host of this podcast, I do not endorse the statements that Drew just made.
I don't endorse them either, to be honest with you. I just know raw milk is delicious. The other thing I was going to say, community supported agriculture. Probably the last thing we'll hit on this topic, but CSA, I do this for fun sometimes.
Before
Type in,
before Drew just rolls on past that, we got to put on the record here. There are more disease outbreaks due to milk among raw milk drinkers than there are among pasteurized milk drinkers,
we are living on the edge.
even though there are like 17 times more pasteurized milk drinkers than raw milk drinkers. And if you get sick from milk, if it was raw milk, you're 13 times more likely to end up in the hospital. So the more outbreaks and
But,
more severe. Not that many deaths.
but
We will admit that. The
not that
numbers of
many
deaths are
deaths.
small.
It tastes better. And so here's the thing. Raw milk, I would only ever buy it from somebody I know slash trust slash I can go and see like their production. I wouldn't buy it like off the shelf, which I don't even know if
It
you can.
it is a decent example of like legislative hypocrisy, right?
True.
Because like we can agree and disagree on things related to raw milk and stuff,
Big,
but
big
and
milk.
I say this all the time. There's not enough research on how much things matter compared to each other, and I would argue that the raw milk stuff probably pretty small compared to much bigger issues. Like if we're going to live in a world where alcohol is legal,
Yeah,
it's
that's a
hard to
great point.
justify banning raw milk. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Well, and then you get into, granted, okay, like I understand the raw milk, the pro raw milk camp, very conspiratorial.
yes.
It's just kind of fun to listen to some of the stuff. But when you do realize that a lot of the stuff around pasteurization and then ultra pasteurization has to do more with like shelf life than
Sure.
anything,
Yeah.
it's like, well, okay, I can see a case to be made here. So again,
But
I'm
shelf
not
life matters in terms of having people not starve to death. You know what I mean? Like
exactly,
making things affordable.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's counter arguments to every counter argument. But since I mentioned CSA, I'll close the loop on that. So that's community support agriculture. So again, something very simple anybody can do. Just type in your town or a town near you, community supported agriculture. Basically, what it is for me in Moore County, North Carolina, where I live, you pay for the size of box I get. It's like $25 a week, and then there's a drop off point where a number of farms in the area basically just contribute different types of vegetables. So it's seasonal stuff, it's local stuff. You don't have to bounce from one farm to the next. You just go to the pickup, you get your box of produce, boom, you're done. That stuff is becoming really, really popular. I know most of the big cities have it. A lot of the smaller areas have it. And granted, if you're in the middle of nowhere, that might be a little bit challenging.
There's, I mean, Misfits Market, I think, is the one
Oh
that
yeah, I forgot about that one.
does like large scale stuff. Like they will give you like really cheap, just slightly ugly produce. And even
There's a
my
couple
local
like
grocery
that, yeah.
store, like even my local grocery store at the end of like the produce section has a little thing where like these fruits and vegetables are fine to eat. They're just like not the right shape or whatever, and you can buy them
Hmm.
super cheap.
Yeah, and it's just kind of interesting. I don't remember if this was. I mean, if you read Michael Pollan's stuff, Omnivore's Dilemma, if all of these books lead to other books and lead to other books and lead to other books, and there's cool facts about like we used to have a bajillion types of apple, now we only have two, and we used to grow a million different varieties of corn, now we only have one, and it's patented. Not, like it's just kind of interesting
Two
to
weird
see.
ones related to that. I Googled it because I was thinking about it. The United States wastes 20 billion pounds annually
So much food.
of cosmetically imperfect food or like things that fell through the cracks in harvesting processes and things like that.
Hmm.
What was the other? Oh, like different strains of things. One of the ones that, and I could be wrong on this, I haven't gone deep on it certainly, but we like bred bananas to the points that they like basically don't have seeds
Yeah.
and that they're all identical. And part of the process that happened there is now basically all of the bananas produced commercially are clones of each other,
Hmm.
which is not inherently bad, other than the fact that if the right disease kicked off,
And wipe them
it
all out.
it would like crush the global banana production because they're all identical and susceptible to the exact same things. We have weird issues, but like this is part of the problem of like we have too many humans and we have to feed them all.
We do have too
So
many humans.
like certain measures had to be taken to keep this many people fed with the same amount of arable land.
Well, but yes, I agree with you. However, there's also, I mean, you can make the argument about seasonality and how like
Sure.
we just totally don't.
Yeah, we expect to have the same things
We
year
expect
round.
to be
Yeah.
able to find an avocado at all times of the year, which again, I realize this all sounds very privileged, but you don't have to. To me, it's been one of those things where you don't have to do a ton of cognitive legwork to arrive at some very interesting revelations. I realize we sound like total hippies, but this will all formulate into that douchey nutrition stuff that actually works article that I will eventually write and put on the blog.
We've slowed down on blog posts, haven't we?
We have. We have.
Hmm.
Um,
All right. If you're listening and you have like an idea you want to write about or get out there,
we have a
we
link
do
on the website.
accept guest
Hmm.
submissions to the blog. Hit us up.
We accept guest submissions. We also have a spot on the website where you can submit topics you want to learn or hear about. And then
Mhm.
we'll do the research on our end and we'll run with it either as a blog post or maybe a podcast episode. So I think that closes the door on nutrition, douchey nutrition stuff.
I think so.
I think. Hit me
Hmm.
up if you want some raw milk.
For your pets.
For your pets. And SARMs too, for your pets. Fitness during the holidays. Very timely since we're in the holidays.
Yeah, I figure this episode's going to drop like between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's a time that people deal with a lot of issues. I know, like in a military setting, I think the majority of people probably take some time off of exercise during the holidays, and everybody worries about coming back from the break, which will give me a chance to repeat something I've said a million times before. The day you get back from leave, or the day you get back from a break, or the day you get back from an NTC rotation, or anything that like prevented you from doing PT for a long time, and I'm talking directly to like platoon sergeants and first sergeants right now, that is not the day to do the hardest workout you've done in a long time. That is a perfect way to injure people, is to give them a long break and then spike the volume and or intensity at the end of that break. The day you get back, and I know this isn't cool or sexy, is a great day to ease back into it, especially if you know that a lot of your population did not train over the holidays.
Which they should train
They should. Well, that brings me to the question we were going to
over
discuss
the
here.
holidays.
You personally, Drew, over the holidays, vacations, trips, whatever, during those times, do you work out more than you normally do or less than you normally do?
The same,
Interesting.
the same, but probably skewing towards less.
Hmm. I definitely would do more.
Do you mean like traveling, finding a gym kind of thing?
Sometimes it's traveling, finding a gym. Much more likely, it's traveling and finding cool places to run as a way to
Oh, well,
explore the
yeah,
area,
right.
but also gyms. I'm a big hotel gym guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking more of when I'm in my normal climbs, I, you know, gym access and all that, barbell work, dumbbells, etc. I don't necessarily have that when I travel, depending on where I'm going.
fair.
So it would be more running, hiking.
Sure.
Man, I'm really this might go with my raw milk stuff. I'm on like a yoga kick. Like it is
Hmm.
super easy to find an hour long yoga video and just bang out a yoga session. I don't know if that counts as a workout, but
Hmm. I will say the strategies I've used. When I go home and visit family, I definitely get like a week long gym membership or a few day gym membership or however long I'm there because it's nice to like unplug from that whole thing for a little bit. Usually I pick like a slightly bougie gym, get my workout on,
what's a
do some
bougie?
nice.
It's a
If
bougie
if
gym.
it has a steam room, it's bougie. That's an easy discriminator on bougie
Fair.
or not.
Do you seek out steam rooms? They're called saunas.
No, there's two different like there's a dry sauna and then there's a
Sauna.
steam room. Two different
Sh-
things.
The Finnish sauna.
I do seek them out, but I don't like have I have a dry sauna accessible, but like
Do you
any
go
all the
naked in the
military
steam
people,
room?
what are you asking me?
Are you a naked sauna guy?
Uh
Is that too personal for the podcast?
in the typical military ones, people are usually like at least wearing like spandex shorts or something like that, or like a towel.
There's military
At
saunas?
the civilian ones, almost every military gym has a sauna. Check it out. You're on
Oh,
base. Most of those gyms have saunas.
sub question. Can you be naked in a military sauna?
Probably because they're in the locker rooms, but I don't usually
Oh,
see it.
okay.
At the civilian ones, the standard is usually towel. I don't know. What was the other thing I was gonna? Oh, like, I mean, I once went on a cruise, and I think I was the only person. There were more people on that ship than there were at my college. That boat was huge. There were like 5,000 people on the boat or something. It was insane. I think I was the only one who used the gym like every day of the cruise, and I was enough of a weirdo. This is in college. They didn't have a good pull-up bar area in the gym, so I went out to where the lifeboats were and used like the random I-beams that are out there because it's more exposed and less like touristy out there. Great spot to do pull-ups. So, like you can get a workout anywhere. It doesn't have to be a bougie gym.
Yeah, it's paleo to get outside and yeah, the cruise ship workouts have done those. Also, we're gonna have a guest come on and talk about Navy cruise ship workouts.
Mm. I don't think they call them cruise ships in the Navy, but they do call them cruises, I think.
Actually, speaking of travel gyms, I might have told this story before. I will never forget this though. I was in Atlanta for Thanksgiving many moons ago, and I went to it wasn't a Planet Fitness, LA Fitness. That's a thing, right?
Yep.
Went to one of those for the day. Was doing squats. I think I had like 315 or something on the bar, and this dude comes up to me with his son. His son was maybe 12, 15 maybe, and asked if I was finishing up. I was like, yeah, sure, it's fine. And I said, you want me to take the weight off? He goes, no, we're good. Proceeds to put his 15-year-old kid under 315 cold to do
Mm.
squats. And the kid was doing like knee bends. He wasn't doing full range of motion squats. He was doing fake squats. And his dad was like hyping him up to do these squats. And that is just in my mind for travel workouts because case in point, traveling, Thanksgiving break, found a local gym, got the day pass, did the thing, hated it.
Hmm.
No sauna.
So that is interesting, I guess. I'm going to provide a slightly more productive anecdote, less of a story. Since we're talking to a military audience here, I will shout out one. If you're trying to like find gyms to go to, if you travel a lot or if you're just on vacation or whatever, I used to use USAA for a lot of things. I don't use it for nearly as many things anymore. I've moved my insurance off of USAA and things like that, but I still am a member. And if you are a USAA member, you do have access to Active and Fit Direct, which is, I think it's $25 a month, gets you access to, and they have the number here, over 11,900 fitness centers and over 5,000 premium exercise studios. The ones listed like 24-hour fitness, crunch, curves, anytime fitness, F45, like a bunch of different things that you can get like steeply discounted
Have you
access to.
done F45?
I have never done F45. F45, interestingly, I don't know like who from F45 follows Mops and Mo's or is aware of it or something like that, but they were sending me press releases like we are a news outlet. Like I was going to share their
Huh?
press release for them. That was weird.
Don't they, isn't it's 45 minutes and you do stuff,
I just know
right?
it's Mark Wahlberg and it's basically CrossFit, but not. I don't know.
That's another one, CrossFit. So when I travel, just type in CrossFit gym for
Yeah,
whatever town you're in. I guarantee there's at least two of them.
that's true.
And they're usually awesome about people dropping in. So no excuse is what we're saying. You can run, you can do yoga, or you can find a CrossFit gym or join USAA. Okay, this next one's going to be fun. Political stuff is what you've titled it. I'm gonna let you walk through that one.
Well, we're gonna, I think, be slightly limited in what we talk about here. I don't think we're going to be explicitly partisan on anything.
You say that. We always say that, and then who knows?
Yeah, I'm still deciding whether it was a good idea or not. I usually like avoid political topics at all costs on the Instagram, but I decided to like share a little bit of my thoughts on some political stuff, and I don't think it was a crazy thought to share. I think I basically said that like we should try to find middle ground, and people got real mad. But
How dare you?
I will say my faith in humanity was to some degree restored by the whole thing because although there were like a couple people who were real mad about it, the vast majority, I got a bunch of messages saying, "Can you make this a post so we can share it?" I got a bunch of messages saying like spot on, glad you said it, love your content. So like
Wait,
I
what'd you
think there are more
say?
people out there that are like centrist than we realize.
You said we should find middle ground, and people didn't like you for that.
I said that so I started with the fact that and I will acknowledge this is true, right? There's the whole Make America Healthy Again phenomenon going on right now, MAHA,
Maha.
which I think the whole MAHA thing is slightly interesting because it is also a Hawaiian word for to relieve from pain. So that's a kind of neat coincidence there. Kind of a backronym, you know what I mean?
Wow, I like that term.
But I made the point that there are some quacks involved in MAHA. There are some conspiracy theories involved in MAHA. Not everything about it is amazing, but one, there are some good things hidden in there, diamonds in the rough and stuff. So there is some potential we can seek out. And I think in the whole, like the health wellness space gets annoyingly polarized and partisan. I think there are way more things we all agree on than there are things we disagree on. And we spend all our time. Somebody sent me a message articulating it really well. I'm going to try and make a meme out of it or whatever. But like, and this is slightly conspiratorial, but like they try to keep the microscope focused on things that don't matter so that we fail to notice all the things that really do matter that aren't getting addressed. And I think people are on the internet arguing about seed oils and red number 40 and whatever instead of having conversations about like the much bigger picture nutrition issues in this country. There's a million examples of that, right? I think there's
Food dyes are really in vogue at the moment.
food dyes are super in vogue, and I
Sorry,
don't
I should
think
say hating food dyes is very in
correct.
vogue.
Yes, hating food dyes, but there's so many layers to the conversation. Like we're supposed to like boycott Kellogg's,
Oh yeah,
but
that one girl on Instagram is
Food Babe, yeah, don't
yeah.
get me started. She's a problem, first of all.
You posted this the other day because I always see those comparative posts.
Before we lose it, I want to close that circle and
Oh,
say that
please, please.
uh, like decades ago, Kellogg's tried to remove a bunch of food dyes from their stuff, and Americans stopped buying it,
Well,
so
if
they
it's not
put them
bright
back
and
in.
shiny,
Yeah.
yeah,
So like, if there's anybody to blame, it's the people.
we are our own worst enemy
Yeah.
in a lot of things. But what I was saying was, you always see those comparative posts of like ketchup in the United States, ketchup in Europe, and in Europe there's like four ingredients, and in the United States there's like a million ingredients.
People say that all the time. I went to Germany, got some ketchup. There was way more sugar in the German ketchup, and there were a bunch of other weird things.
Where were you in Germany?
Bavaria.
Oh, I thought you were going to say on a military base. I would have slapped you.
No, on a military base, you basically get American stuff because there's companies who like exist just to like.
That's what I thought you were saying was you were in Germany, but eating American mayonnaise or ketchup.
And another one to not forget before we continue. It's easy to get confused about which chemicals are banned and approved in different countries because a lot of chemicals have different names in different countries.
Mm.
So like all the food colors in Europe are like E and a three-digit number versus they're just like a color name and then a number, like a two-digit number in the US. It's different systems. There are plenty of examples of food dyes that are banned in the US that are allowed in Europe and food dyes that are allowed in Europe, but like it's
What's
not
the deal
nearly
with
as
red
simple as people
40?
think it
What's
is.
the red 40?
I'm sure there's some evidence that it has some potential harm, but it comes back to the thing I was saying before about comparing how much things matter. I guarantee all the foods that contain red 40 also contain things that are bigger problems than red 40. Like if you're routinely eating a bunch of food dyes, that means you are routinely eating a bunch of ultra processed food
Hmm.
that's like being marketed to you because it's brightly colored. And there's a bunch of other problems with that.
Well, back to my douchey nutrition rules. only buy things that have ingredients on them that you can visualize.
Hmm.
Why are you groaning like that?
Like, hold on. I'm gonna use the classic example ingredients in an apple. If apples had to be labeled the same way that packaged foods are,
But
the
they're not.
ingredients would be alpha linoleic acid, asparagine, D-catechin, isoquercetin, hyperoside, ferulic acid, farnesene, nexothiacin, like, and I only got like a quarter of the way through. Like, just because you don't know what the thing is or it has a long chemical name does not mean it's harmful,
Right. But if that's your rule of thumb, you will err on the side of probably making better decisions.
which is likely true. So this is the same thing as like my beef with the whole processed food conversation. The processing of foods does not make them like it's not the processing that's bad, but processing does correlate with bad things. There are
Yes.
times when processed foods are appropriate choices, and there are times when they are inappropriate choices.
Like GMOs.
There's what's don't
Well,
hold
people
on.
get people knock on like yellow rice. Doesn't yellow
Okay.
rice like save the third world?
I mean, the whole thing with GMOs is stupid. There's a slightly subjective definition of what it takes to make something GMO. We've done tons of selective breeding of things before we could, in a lab, genetically modify them, and there's no evidence that GMO anything is harmful.
No, I'm
I
with you
just
on
wouldn't
that.
worry about GMO. And
I'm
like
with you on that.
before we could even do it in a lab, right? Like corn did not look the way it does now before
No.
humans messed with it. Bananas did not look the way they do now before humans started messing with it. Like nothing you eat, even organic, whatever, and don't get me started on organic, it has been messed with so that we can produce large amounts of very aesthetically pleasing versions of the thing.
It's what the people want.
Yes.
What other political stuff did you have up your sleeve besides MAHA?
I think get
Who is MAHA? Like who started that?
I don't know
I
who
never heard of that until you said it.
I mean it largely orbits around RFK Jr.
Okay, that's who we were
There are
dancing around.
certainly other people involved. But I think to get less partisan for a second, I think it's worth discussing kind of policy change that might be more likely under the incoming administration that is good, right? And I think there are a few opportunities here. I think one is psychedelics for mental health treatments. This is particularly popular in the veteran space for PTSD.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of potential there. I don't know whether to be hopeful or not on marijuana legalization. This one, I mean, people have been thinking that marijuana was about to get federally legalized for decades now, and it still hasn't. Without getting conspiratorial, one might think that Big Pharma had something to do with that, but that's a whole separate conversation.
I mean,
We don't have time for
probably,
that.
probably. I don't think they were idly watching.
Yeah, we'll see. One, I think we are very overdue on, and I'm gonna launch an email here in a few days at like a very senior official to see if he or somebody else will come on the podcast to talk about it because there are pilot programs to do this already. But a modernization of the military accessions medical requirements, laws, and policies.
You might need to explain that one.
Yeah, one of the most obvious examples is mental health.
Hmm.
A few decades ago, nobody in high school was receiving clinical mental health care unless they were in really, really bad shape. Policies were written based on that kind of situation. And the result is if you have received clinical treatment of any kind, or definitely medications, like any time in the last X number of years before you try and enlist in the military, you're going to be found ineligible. But there's a much lower threshold now to receive clinical mental health treatment or to receive medication. So many, many more people are receiving it, even for less severe mental health disorders. And therefore, a much larger population is now ineligible to serve, even if they wanted to. Easy one, ADHD. If you're diagnosed with ADHD once you're already on active duty, no problem. Here's your medications, keep serving. We have no issues. If you're diagnosed with ADHD and medicated for it before you enlist, very, very, very hard to join the military.
Which is so dumb. And we've talked
Yeah.
about this. Does it go so far? So my argument, or maybe counter argument, has always been with H2F and other programs like that. A huge piece of it is reducing the stigma around seeking help for
Mhm.
mental health issues. Like we
But there's a
want,
huge number of reasons, accessions being one of them, that the stigma still exists, right? Because people know.
that's my point. So like prior to getting in, it's like you better not have gotten help for your mental health or else
The
you
other
can't
the other
join.
classic examples, as much as like we have senior leaders encouraging people, this kind of comes back to the sleep thing we talked about, where like once people are already generals, they say, "Oh, you should sleep more,"
Yeah.
but they got there by not doing it. Same thing. Like people get to really senior levels and then seek out mental health treatment, but like there are things that they did in their career that they could have been disqualified from if they'd sought out mental health treatment earlier. The two biggest examples I've seen or been exposed to personally recently, one is cadets in either ROTC or service academies seeking out mental health care puts your commissioning at serious risk, or like junior enlisted that are trying to go through some sort of commissioning route. It can make it very hard to do that. And another one, now that I work with the Air Force, if you want to be a pilot, that stuff can
Hmm.
really get you.
They're very
Had a
strict.
guy I was advocating for recently who like met all the requirements for it, but like one time years ago, he sought out some mental health care because he was under a lot of stress. I don't think he was even medicated, but because that's on his record, they did not allow him to be a pilot.
That is so dumb. Are they talking about modernizing these or is this just wishful thinking?
I mean, this is a lot of wishful thinking for sure. There's a lot of entrenched stuff that gets in the way.
Well, if you're out there listening and you're a senior leader that has some sway over this, cut the shit. Let's modernize accession medical requirements in 2025.
Last one, I'm excited to hopefully not be under continuing resolution anymore and get an actual National Defense Authorization Act and like military budget. That just makes it easier to plan for lots of big projects and things like that. But partly it's because I'm excited about a few different things. People have seen my social media posts summarizing NDAA language. Now, to be honest, I checked like the latest version of it, and several of the human performance, health, fitness, wellness related things had fallen out of it, which happens all the time. If they can't agree on the language, then the thing goes away completely. But there were some cool things in there. One was about allowing military units to spend operational dollars on supplements potentially. That could go very well. That could go very wrong depending on how it's done. It's an intriguing prospect.
Raw milk included in that.
Probably not. No. And then it's not explicitly NDAA, current NDA related because it's from last year's or maybe even 2 years ago NDAA. I'm still waiting to see. Congress did tell the Army to establish gender neutral combat MOS standards on the ACFT. And I haven't heard even a whisper of what's going on with that. And we're getting really close. I think that's due this summer. We're only a few months out, and they haven't even mentioned anything publicly. And as we have learned with Army fitness stuff, you have to like pilot it for months and find out whether it works and who's mad and yada, yada, yada. So you need a few months of ramp time to get this thing fully implemented. I'm growing more and more concerned that we haven't heard anything yet.
I think that's one of those that's just not going to happen.
I mean, there's like a law that says it's gonna happen.
There's a lot of laws that say a lot of things.
That's true. That is very, very, very true.
I feel like if they don't want it, they just be like, ah, never mind.
Hmm.
Gender neutral combat standards.
We'll see. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Actually, I should rewind that and correct myself. The language that got passed into law did not specifically say gender neutral. It's just said higher ACFT combat standards. It did not say one way or the other whether that
Why
would
do they
be.
have to be gender neutral? Why can't they just be higher standards? And if you do it, you do it.
I don't think they necessarily have to be gender neutral. I think, and this comes back
What do
to
we gain?
we're under the subcategory of political stuff.
Sure.
Given what's going on, given comments that have been said by the potential incoming SecDef pending Senate confirmation and other people
Is
in
that that
the
major?
potential incoming cabinet, we're going to leave that stuff aside because I like to keep my job. But many comments by many people that are likely to take positions of significant power and influence in the coming months, there seems to be a push towards reassessing the way we've approached women in combat. And a part of that would seem like, unless more extreme measures are taken, which that'll be a conversation for another day, a less extreme version might be gender neutral standards for combat roles, which was what the ACFT was supposed to do in the first place. And this stems all the way back to 2012 and the then Secretary of Defense's comments that we're not talking about lowering the standards. We're talking about making sure there's a clear standard. And if you meet it, you can serve in any of these positions. So we're over a decade into this whole thing. We still haven't gotten there. We'll see what happens.
When you say reevaluate, are you saying we're like pro more women in combat roles or
The
anti?
incoming administration,
Yeah.
every indication points to, depending on who gets confirmed and things like that, a dramatic rollback of what has been allowed so far.
Why?
We're dancing around some really sensitive political stuff right now that I don't necessarily want to do
Well, when you
right
put
now.
political stuff on the title, I mean, that's right where we're
I
going.
I picked specific ones that were not going to be a huge problem for us.
Fair enough. More to follow, maybe. Any other political stuff you have up your sleeve?
I don't think so. And the only thing we have left on here is a bunch of semantic gripes about fitness terms. And I'm wondering if it would be smarter to just wrap things up now and save that for another day. I have received a couple complaints recently about our episodes being very long and people not having the time.
Oh my God, you have the time. Just listen to it in parts. People don't have time for anything.
I mean, do you care about the term stuff?
We can close it. We can go back and do that later. How about
Okay.
this? For those out there who don't have the time, this will be a shorter episode.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, guys. Now go off and do all the things you need to do because you've listened to this episode in one sitting, because apparently that's how it works. And come back and listen to us next week for another short episode brought to you by Alex and Drew.
Happy holidays.
See ya.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, Alex, let's cover our ass real quick.
Oh, great idea, Drew. All right, guys. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Before you go, please rate and review the pod on the listening platform of your choice. You can also visit us on our website at www.mopsinmos.com. That's mops, the letter N, mos.com. You can check out the library of podcast episodes, our latest blog entries, any helpful resources, and also sign up for our newsletter.
Drew nailed it. Just to underline a couple of things, the podcast entries have in-depth show notes on the website. So if you missed anything or you want to read any of the research we talk about, it is all there. You can, at the bottom of the website, sign up with your email and receive future updates from us. The blog posts go a little bit more in depth in kind of written form on a couple of topics we get questions about all the time. But most importantly, I just want to ask all you guys, our best way the word gets out is absolutely word of mouth. So tell your friends, tell the people you work with, anybody you think would find it useful. Thanks for spreading the word.
If you have any questions or comments, feel free to shoot us an email at either Drew or Alex at mopsinmos.com.
Or there's a contact form on the website.